welcome to Inner Whispers Radio and the related podcast. This is episode 8. I am Alan. My function is to be facilitator for April Crawford, administrative assistant for Veronica, and lucky you, host of this show. Format will always feature April Crawford, who's a full-body, open, deep trance channel, 10 best-selling books on Amazon, check it out, and Veronica. Veronica is our name for a causal plane entity that we've been talking to for many years, among others, and Veronica is going to respond to my creative input. We don't discuss any of this in advance, so God knows. Hopefully I won't be in too much trouble. Anyway, I'm going to hand the phone to Veronica. I'm going to hand the phone to April first, and then April's going to say something, and then we'll call in Veronica, who usually comes in pretty quickly because she knows that these broadcasts are taking place. Hold on for April.
Hi, everyone. It's April, and much to my surprise, there's been a lot of interest about where I go and what I do, and if I can hear stuff while I'm channeling. And so I thought I would address a little bit of that today. When we first started doing the channeling work, I didn't remember anything. In fact, I was pretty upset about it because I'm one of those people that wants to always know what she's up to and what she's doing, and I didn't like the idea of not knowing what happened at these sessions. Although I trusted everyone there, I still was really uncomfortable with it. So I asked this Veronica energy at the time, can I hear what's going on, because I'm uncomfortable. And anytime I'm uncomfortable, I feel I need to speak up and say something about it. So she allowed me to start listening in into some of the sessions. And it was a very odd experience because I could hear Veronica talking and I could feel the vibration coming through me. But then I also was listening to her talking, and it was out of my mouth. And therefore, it was just a really odd experience. But I got to hear what was being said. I felt comfortable with what was being said. And eventually I just said, why don't you just take the lead, Veronica? I will find something else to do. So over the years, even though we were not really doing this, how one would call professionally, I would learn to just back up and learn to go to other places. And we've had some questions about that, on these other places you go to. And I've mentioned before that because I'm very interested in the genealogy of my family, I've gone to the dimensional space where, say, the great-great-great-grandfather was living and could observe how they lived, what they were up to, how they were emotionally, and who they were as people, not just statistics on a census paper somewhere. And that's been really, really interesting. But there's also other parts to it. The space that's not physical and is also not eternal space is very fluid. I would liken it to being underwater. And you can see through underwater, you can see images underwater, but a lot of times if you move your hand, it can become distorted. And I believe that that's pretty much the best description of a non-physical space. I've learned how to manipulate the magnetic energy and realized in one of those forays that what I thought about would materialize rather fluidly before me. And if I really focused, I could manifest those thoughts and look into those thoughts and create a sort of like a movie of it. But it took a lot of practice, and since I do a lot of channeling, it afforded me the time to figure all that out. So when I leave, I go into that fluid space often, and whatever it is I'm thinking about, I can manifest it so I can move into it, resolve it, or I can even go to other places if I want to. It depends on what I'm thinking about. So I just wanted to share that with some of you because I know a lot of people who listen to this show are aspiring channels themselves and would like to know my perspective on it because they may be able to relate to it in some way.
Thank you, April. And now, I am now waiting as April's shifting through papers and wasting time to see if Veronica will come in. And now I got a dirty look. From April, not Veronica. Oh, I got one from Veronica, too. So, no, well, she says I did not. But Veronica and I have had a lot of time together, and pretty honest time. And she always wins, although I occasionally make some good points. So, Veronica, we have some questions, from readers and listeners and so forth. And Olga Roldam has asked a number of questions, and she was very adamant about it since she sent it through email and several different posts. And it has to do with time to start, which something I'm interested in. Nobody else seems to be interested in it that wants to call in, but I like time. I like speed of light and that kind of stuff, and it's kind of technical. Anyway, it is somewhat confusing when the idea that everything exists at once, and so all of our lives are happening now at once, since time is non-existing in parentheses. And then we are told that we incarnate in order to evolve, to grow, which denotes a definite movement from one level to the other. So the basic question is, how could we know time change from one state of awareness to another?
Good day to all of you. It is Veronica. And we are often asked about time dilemma. It is a perceived linear definition that there is growth and expansion. That is the linear definition. When there is no time from point A to point B, it simply means that the expansion is ever increasing in electromagnetic energy. So it's not really expanding outward in a linear way, growing into this huge amoeba of energy. It is increasing in intensity and having greater depth. Now, it is almost an impossible thing for most of you in the linear reality to be able to step out of it and grasp the concept of no time, because all of you are completely engaged in it, and some more than others, and it is a necessary component to be in the physical reality. We would just ask you to consider that maybe time is like a stack of pennies, and they all are on top of each other, and they all are, holding each other in the column, but ultimately the individuality of each penny comes into play, and the stack of pennies can grow and expand in intensity, but not necessarily grow outward in a growth kind of way that is the linear definition.
Thank you, Veronica. And still from Olga, who have extensive comments, which I appreciate. Everybody should write their comments into this podcast, and they all get read. Olga's second question is, what about the souls that decide not to ever incarnate, who have never incarnated? Are they in a perfect state in that they do not intend to incarnate and develop further?
Just like there are so many different types of humans and so many different types of energy, it is for some, they come into the physical linear reality and find the density of it to be not what resonates with them. And there are other dimensional spaces that one can go to evolve their energy just as much as they would in the physical reality. Although the physical reality does offer the vividness of color and texture, and because of its density can create an atmosphere of growth that's sometimes a bit more quick or available. And we'd say that every one of you is different. And we know that there are many listening to this podcast today that are saying this is the last time we're ever going to incarnate in this incredibly bad space. And they will make that decision when they cross out. But it is a valid decision. So they want to continue their evolution, but maybe just find that the linear reality isn't the place to do it, especially on the earth plane.
Okay, Veronica, thank you. And this is still more Olga questions. I am bothered by the idea that a soul decides to incarnate into a certain life with certain conditions and liabilities and or physical disabilities, and I'm looking at the existing being in his physical condition. And the basic question is, the wretched ones that must face the encore of daily humiliation, suffering, and hardship with no knowledge of wise or idea of recompense. So I guess the general question is, why would anybody in the right mind incarnate to be poor or crippled or in a war-torn area? Why would they make these choices? And is it, here's Alan's editorial, is it because they're just inexperienced, or is it because there's certain lessons they want to learn?
The majority of the time, those who incarnate in unfavorable conditions are usually advanced energies that wish to understand those conditions and would hope to, by participating in that element, to bring a better understanding, to bring awareness, to bring opportunity for that wretched condition to improve by participating in it. Every energy comes in with an idea. It doesn't mean they're inexperienced. It just means that they have an idea of what they wish to do. We'd say the worse the conditions, it's usually the more advanced the soul. Sometimes, though, there are moments where an inexperienced energy will make a decision that propels them into something that isn't so great. But there's always room for growth, and there's always room for understanding anytime you move into a place that is considered wretched. Everyone, all of you, have incarnated at one time or another in conditions that weren't so great and moved out of it and into better next time around.
Okay, thanks, Veronica. This next one is from Chris. And we've talked about autism before, like what the experience is and so forth. And that spurred a bunch of questions, about autism. Now I just have to find what he said here. Okay. He said, what is Veronica's take? And this is a different slant on it. It's not what happens to them. What is Veronica's take on autism? It has super increased over the last 20 years. Is there a reason for this?
There are many reasons for an autistic moment to manifest itself. We think that it has always existed and simply not brought to the forefront, perhaps defined as just not a condition of complete awareness. So we would say that autism has many different avenues that create it. Oftentimes it is someone who has a very difficult time being physical, and therefore they move in and out of nonlinear and linear often. And it makes them appear like they don't really have the ability to focus properly. There are those who have participated in toxic environments that have caused the energy to have a difficult time penetrating through and assimilating into the body. And then there are the moments where a very advanced energy comes in and wishes to understand the concept of not being fully engaged in the physical form. So it's not just one answer. There's many answers because, again, you're all very different, and each of you have different reasons for doing different things.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. And I think Chris has one more. Autism. Oh, this is reincarnation related. Do we pick our genes, e.g., height, skin color, any imperfections, however small, etc., before we enter life, or does the body become available when our souls then blend with them in that body without manipulating it in any way?
We say that both parts of the query is correct. There are times where an energy will have an opportunity to take an available position, maybe through abdication from another energy. And they come in and take what's there, take what the moment offers. But the majority of the time you pick your parents, you pick obstacles and things to overcome. You might pick infirmities that you wish to experience. And you might pick a form that has super qualities to it, or you might pick a form that offers some instability and an opportunity to observe something from a different angle. And it could be illness. So, again, there's no standard answer to that question. It's very individualistic and very spread out.
Okay, this next question is somewhat sensitive, and that is people who take their own lives historically, including this time. And that is, I'm not very knowledgeable about this, and I'll just say that I think that, like, certain ancient religions and practices, say by the Japanese or so forth, take their lives out of honor. And I think that today there's still a lot of different reasons, and I'm not offering any judgment for any of them. For instance, I can imagine that someone with terminal cancer and extreme pain might choose euthanasia 2 minutes before it's 2 months or 2 years before it's time to go, in order to save their family the financial hardship and so forth of completely being destroyed financially for a couple extra months or whatever. And on the other hand, there's a lot of people who do it as an escape, who are in despair, and I am particularly upset personally, and I wish there was something I could do about it. For like in the military, in the United States, there's over 20 people a day that commit suicide. So the question I have is from those people left behind. I have 2 questions, actually. One is, a lot of people, especially if they have a very strict religious belief system, are worried what happens to their loved ones if they commit suicide. Specifically, do they burn in hell? Do they show up at the pearly gates and get kicked out because they committed suicide? Or what happens to them, and are they okay?
Anyone who decides to prematurely end their life, that decision is usually made from a great deal of pain, whether it's emotional, spiritual, mental, physical. It's usually made from a pained perspective. It is not true that you are forever shunned or that you are going to, what is this place, hell? That simply is not the case. Anyone who crosses in that manner is met always with great love and great nurturing affection. There is great concern about the reasons for doing it, but energies that meet these individuals are comforting, they're nurturing, and wish to bring about some understanding and to heal the pain that brought them there to begin with. So it's not a judgment. There is no judgment anywhere. Perhaps the only judgment is on the physical earth, where people say, oh, he took his own life. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's terrible. And indeed, it is a tragedy. But it's usually because that individual is in great pain. So Spirit never judges. Spirit will never allow the individual to judge themselves. They will sit with them and counsel them and comfort them to get them to a place where they understand why it happened and to perhaps deal with the pain that caused them to do it. And we'd say that there is no judgment on it whatsoever. It's only on earth.
Thank you, Veronica. And as a codicil to that, one thing that I would like to also mention and have Veronica comment on, it's something I tell people all the time who ask about this subject, is that it is not an escape. You take whatever issues you have. I don't care if you've got family issues or financial issues or some past life issues. Whatever issues you have, you still have to resolve. So just ending a physical life is not an escape. You may have to deal with it in between lives or in some future incarnation, but it is not an escape. So if anybody who's thinking about that, I urge you to take some time and not do it, not participate in it. And let's see if Veronica agrees with me.
We think that it is unlikely that they would take the urging from you not to do it, because those who are in severe pain usually aren't thinking completely clearly. And just be comforted, those who are left behind, that those you love dearly and those who have done such a thing in their lifetime, they will be met with love, respect, and counsel. And yes, you do. You take things with you. We always call it the baggage. You always bring the baggage along with you. And once you're there, though, we think someone will take the bags from you and hold them for a bit. But when you're strong enough, when you're healed enough, you'll be able to take those bags back from them and deal with it and resolve any of the issues that caused you to be in such pain. Pain is a terrible thing, and we can see clearly why someone would want to escape. But know that no one is judged for it. There is no black mark next to your name. It is something that is met with kindness and comfort.
I.e., it's not an escape. Okay. Okay, now I'm getting potentially in trouble again. Veronica, you've spoken about this before, and I think it's just a great topic for people to grasp, and I hope it's not interfering with your message to the world. That would be an odd coincidence, but could you talk about the artful expression of the soul?
Each of you come from a soul group, and each of you are a soul energy that wishes to express itself colorfully in the reality. Coming into physical reality offers the perfect canvas for those who are artistically wanting to express themselves in a very solid way. We'd say that every soul, no matter how it's focused, and some are focused more black and white and some are focused very much like a rainbow, but each one, regardless, wants to come in to create the perfect thing or to create the thing where they can lead someone to the perfect thing. So we would say the artful expression of the soul exists in all of you in various degrees and expression. And that's why you incarnate, because the soul wishes to be artful in that way.
Thank you, Veronica. And I'm just looking down my list. And one of the topics in one of your books is unconditional love. I know I asked you about unconditional love, and you said, is there any other kind? But maybe you could elaborate on that.
Well, we still maintain that there's really no other kind of love but unconditional. If there are conditions upon the love, then it starts to lose a little bit of its luster and often becomes problematic for those who are participating in the conditions. We would say that when you love someone, they can do incredibly ignorant things. They can speak perhaps negatively about the world and maybe even about you. But the best way to engage all of it is to love someone without any conditions attached to it. If everyone did that, it would be a much better place all around. So decide, am I going to live with conditions, or am I going to love no matter what is going on and bring the unconditional moment into it? We think if your planet participated in a bit more unconditional love, it might be a whole better place to be.
Thank you, Veronica. And now, what I've been waiting for, Veronica's message to you and Veronica's message to the world in this particular podcast number 8.
Each day that you awaken is a new opportunity. It is a blank canvas that can be painted upon in any way you choose it to be. Being very present in that moment, the now moment, with that canvas is probably the most powerful thing that you possess. And yes, all of you possess it. If you make decisions and live from the past, you're going to get more of the past. And sometimes the past isn't always the best place because it's looking back on it and you say, ooh, I could have done that better. And projecting yourself into the future by worrying or supposing, okay, this is going to happen if this happens, and it robs you of your present moment. So we'd say each day when you wake up, it's a blank canvas. Decide that you're not going to let the past bother you. It's there. It's not going anywhere. And you're not going to propel yourself into a future moment that hasn't even, moved into substance yet. You're going to stay very present. If it's 9 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning. And look at the day as opportunity, not a repeat projection into the future that has no substance. Stay present. Decide every day that you're going to make decisions from there. You're going to live there, and you're going to try to allow your energy to have a little bit of comfort there. Be present. Don't go anywhere else. Stay really focused and decide that you're going to make the day be what you'd like it to be. So that when it's a past moment, you can look back at it and say, I did pretty good that day. I'm improving. Every time I look at this, I'm improving. And as you move through your day into your future, you decide, I'm going to stay present while I'm doing this so that when I create the future, it's going to be from a very calm, collected, thoughtful moment instead of a sort of a chaotic leap into a void that's not even real yet. All have this ability. So we'd say take time when you awaken in the morning to refresh yourself, calm yourself, clear your head of the past, and hold yourself in the present so you don't flop into the future and create something that you don't want. It's all very simple if you just think about it.
Thank you, Veronica. And as usual, this concludes the interesting part of this radio broadcast and podcast. I will just say, as Alan, a couple of things. One, a tease. Some time in the future, we will have at least a little segment about the stuff that I'm really interested in after 25 years. On way past belief in life after death, that's a fact, reincarnation's a fact, all that stuff. And I know that, a lot of people write in, but it's actually not what people are interested in. It's not why people call Veronica to talk to. Like, they don't really care about pre-bang physics, but I do. And I've had a lot of experiences, even though I don't listen. Long ago, I stopped listening to telephone sessions, but I still sit in all in-person sessions, which are interesting. And I've had hundreds of my own in-person sessions. And Veronica, April's not there, so she doesn't remember any of it. So someday, and it may be my book, My Life Married to a Deep Trance Channel, or I might even throw a little onto this webcast one of these days. That's a tease. That's coming. In the meantime, for those of you who wanted to talk to Veronica directly, you need to go to, or it would be helpful to go to aprilcrawford.com. There's information how to contact us. Same thing with Amazon.com and also Veronica's Facebook page, which is Veronica the April Crawford. And that concludes this session. Look forward to next time. Thanks.